You got to learn from where you've been there before. Draft trades. What do we have to take away today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. We're brought to you today by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's going to give you over what you're looking for, $20 off your first purchase. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Here on Locked On Podcast Network, use your team every single day on every single platform for every single team. So if you want draft information, if you want league information, if you want information on any team in the league, go check out the next listen for that team here on the network. We appreciate you. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. Check out the Athletic Matrix. Out now, V1, V2 coming very shortly, and the draft guide not far behind that. You can get it all at rogueapc.com. You can find my work over at rgrfootball.com as well as NFL33.com. Chris's work is all at kcchiefscorner.com. His Substack, you can get that work there, the cap, the quarterbacks, everything that you're looking for. And if anything breaks, you can get it here at 816-357-8781. We are going to check in on the rest of the AFC West later in the show, see what they've been up to. It comes down to in or out. How do we see this draft? That's coming next. But we start, where can we learn from draft day trades? Trades that affected and changed franchises, not just the Chiefs, but Chris is going to set them up. We're going to discuss maybe the things that we have to pay attention the most for as we go into this draft.
You know, you look at some of the draft day trades. Obviously, if you look at Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is trade number one.
Right?
That yeah, that one would be the franchise changer. And honestly, it changed multiple franchises because there's a trickle-down effect with Buffalo because that's how they were able to get Josh Allen the next year. So it's, you know, one of those things where draft day trades happen. And we didn't hear – I started hearing rumors about that trade, I think, Thursday night before the draft happened. And then obviously it happened. And so we'll see whether or not there's any big trades for Kansas City this year. But the reality is that it's – and Matt and I talked about this on our show last week when we were talking about prep for the draft, how Veach is doing things right now, how the entire process is laid out. They've already got a good idea as to what it's going to take to move different spots.
Yep.
Obviously, things will change on draft night a little bit, but generally speaking, they're going to have a pretty good idea as to how things are going to play out and who's probably going to be going where to an extent, but what it's going to cost to move from 31 up to. I can't imagine that they want to go much higher than 16, 17 at the most, considering what it's going to take to get up that high. That's the problem. It's not necessarily that they don't want to go get a player. It's that you're going to have to give up something huge to go do it.
Excuse me. That's the problem. It's the trade value and getting that back. Anything is worth selling out for a quarterback. And when you know that you're doing that, especially when you can piss off Sean Payton in the process, you got to love that, right? So there's little bonuses in there. But in a situation like this, where there's two possibilities, and I really do think that for me, the bigger trade possibility to trade up for is not offensive tackle. There are offensive tackles here. I have 3 first-round grades. My tackle grades are in, folks. You'll be able to see them on NFL33.com here coming up shortly. But I don't think that there's enough of even the first-round grades to go trade up to go get them. But the defensive tackles are a different breed. And the last time that I recall the Chiefs taking a number 1 overall DT was Glenn Dorsey. And I remember my utter disappointment at that selection. So you have to be careful with that too. So I can't say that selling out for a top 10 pick is worth it in this case, like it was for Mahomes, but moving up to 18 or 16, that's certainly in the cards, in my opinion.
Well, and another draft day trade for a defensive tackle. Don't forget Ryan Sims. And all the glory of how that one turned. I mean, not to even talk about the glory of how that one turned out, but to look at how that went down with because wasn't that the same draft Baltimore missed a pick? Kansas City ended up jumping.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that was the same draft. And when you see those types of things, you don't see very often, but I'm pretty sure Baltimore is the one that happened to twice in like a 10-year period. Especially in the first round, you don't really see that very often at all. To to me, when you look at this and when you look at the draft scenarios, you look at the trade scenarios, Kansas City going and getting a guy like Worthy last year, only having to trade up 3 spots. Look at a couple of years ago, they go and get Trent McDuffie, they get George Karlaftis. They're generally not picking where they're supposed to be picking at in the late 30s. The couple of times they have in the recent history haven't proven very fruitful for them. I would say, I would think you would say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2020, FAU a couple of years ago. I don't think that you would feel great about either of those picks. So I would imagine that Kansas City is going to be looking to make a move of some sort. Is it going to be a large move? I don't expect it to be, unless they find somebody that they think is a once in a, I won't say once in a generation, but once in a couple year draft cycle type talent that they think they can get it somewhere in the 20s. And I can't imagine there's going to be a player there, unless it's a defensive tackle that they absolutely love. Like defensive tackle and wide receiver are the positions that I would think that they'd be trading up for, because as you said, the offensive tackle class is okay, but they don't have top end talent like last year's class did.
Right. And it's deeper than it is elite. So once you're past those first 3, at least on my board, there will be no other left tackles, any tackles at all with a first round grade worth going to get. So I find it harder and harder each day that goes by. And the more work that I do on the defensive tackle class here, the more it seems like that's the direction. What's
your number? What's your first round pick number? I know you're not done yet, but what do you think your numbers are going to turn out to be?
I'm running pretty low so far. My expectation is that I'm going to come in under 20, which is the first time in 3 seasons. This goes back to the 16, 17, 18 stretch where I didn't have 20 first round grades on the board.
And that's telling. And Kansas City probably only has 12 to 15, I would imagine, because they're also looking at fit and how things are going to work in their system and all that. So it's not a great draft to have something in the 30s, which that's where Kansas City is going to be every single time.
It's really not. And hopefully the quarterback class does away with that. And so that quarterback class has an effect on the Kansas City Chiefs, even though we're talking about 31. We'll go over that coming up next.
Imagine watching your team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Game Time Picks is amazing. It curates and makes it easier to find the better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and much, much more. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. Go check it out. The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It is a super deal. And you have peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
I want to set this up just a little bit here. And I tried to hint at it last time, and I just want to introduce everyone in Chiefs Kingdom to our new savior, Jackson Dart, because if there is not a candidate to trade up for, trading out is going to be based on somebody coming up to get Jackson Dart. I am convinced of that. The top 2 quarterbacks are the top 2 quarterbacks. I wouldn't draft either of them, to be honest, but somebody's going to need to get that third guy, and I think that might be the key. So then that changes the math of where the Chiefs draft and how many they draft, right? So in or out, do the Chiefs pick 4 top 100 picks?
No, I'm out. I think that they would love to. The only thing that, okay, I'll take a step back. The only way they pick 4 in the top 100 is if they trade back. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I see them drafting 4 in the top 100. If they absolutely cannot trade up, which they've had trouble with in the past couple of years, then maybe they trade back and maybe they pick more than 4 in the top 100. That would be a great position for Kansas City to be in, to continue to add I'm not going to say blue chip prospects, but it's prospects that are in your top 100 board multiple times, and guys that you think that can be starters in the future for the next 3 or 4 seasons. Because the reality is when you start looking at what those second and third round guys are going to be, it's guys that you think can come in and start for you at some point in the near future. Maybe not this year, but it's okay to spend a second round pick on somebody that could be starting for you as soon as next year.
I think that's justifiable. I have to feel like right now the most likelihood is they probably don't. I'm pretty close, though. I'm probably 60-40 in that. I would say I'm 60-40 out that they pick 4 because they're going to have to give up. And I think that's honestly the reason they have 66. I would even argue that if they choose to trade another pick in the top 100, I would argue go ahead and trade 63. You're not having a huge difference between the two, but having that second rounder might buy you more credit. So I think that is a possibility. We'll go over trade scenarios and who might be a target coming up in another show here in the next week or two, folks, as we go through not only my draft rankings as well as my guys, but Chris's guys and Matt's guys. We're going to have a good combination here. So in or out, the next thing that I really worry about is, do they draft for need, meaning DT, OT, wide receiver, corner, as I would list it? Are those the 4 positions that they draft in the first top 100 picks? Chris is going to fix his camera or microphone.
I'm going to say out. I think that they're going to probably try to go those directions, but the reality is the players are whoever's going to be there is going to be there, and you can't force something. I think that's exactly what they did with Clyde Edwards-Helaire to an extent. FAU a couple of years later, you get in bad positions when you try to force something and you try to take a specific position. So to me, I'm out. I think that if everything falls perfectly, that's what they would love to do. And it's really hard to argue that you shouldn't do that because you'd be getting basically 4 premium positions at that point. Defensive tackle for the Chiefs, at least, is a premium position. It may not be across the NFL, but look at what they're paying Chris Jones. That puts it in the premium position category for me. So I don't think that they probably do that. I think that they want to do that, but I don't think that they're going to be able to fill that scenario. I think that the rest of the league is going to probably make it a little bit difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, I have to agree. What scenarios are you looking at?
In or out, do you think Kansas City ends up with 6 picks in this draft as opposed to the complete 8 that they have? Do you think that they give up multiple picks and maybe even give up picks and move back and get stuff for next year?
I'm in. I do not think they take 8 selections in this draft. I think they need to use those to move around. And it may be on day 3. They have a giant gap right now between 95 and 133, and then another giant gap between 133 and 226. That one's obviously much, much bigger. So using those other picks to move around, whether it's 6th round or next year or whatever it is, I do think that they have to do that, but I don't think there's 8 total selections in this draft.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. And in or out, Kansas City doesn't make 2 selections in the 2nd and 3rd round.
I'm actually out that they don't. I think they will. I think if anything, we might see 3 second round selections.
Okay, I was about to say, to be clear, I'm saying that they would have less than second round selections or 3rd round selections. So only 1 out of the ones that they have available. Or I guess they have 3 now I think about it. Sorry. I keep thinking about 63 and 66. So that's where my focus has been. It's going to be interesting. I think that this draft for Kansas City and their ability to move around and really move up and down the draft board could really be telling as to who they get and how much help it's going to be this season.
Agreed. And they have to go where they can go big. They need to go big. At the 2 trench positions that we know they need to go big. If they can't, and everywhere else, they need to go quality. And if that means that your value is by pulling back and still taking a prospect that you like because he fits your system or because he has the trait that you want. That makes a lot of sense to me. So still moving around within the top 100 would be my goal.
I got one more for you. How many defensive tackles do you have in the first round right now?
I'm not done with that class, but right now I have 4.
Okay. Say all 4 of those guys are gone by 20. And your tackles are gone by 20.
Yeah.
You taking a wide receiver?
If I'm stuck at that pick, might have.
No, I'm talking, would you trade up for a wide receiver? Is there a wide receiver that you would consider trading up for? Considering 7 of those picks are probably going to go to offensive line or defensive line at that point.
Fair enough. So all the DTs with first round grades are gone. All the OTs with first round grades are gone. Do I move up because of it, specifically for wide receiver?
Yep.
That's going to depend on who's there as well. I don't think this class is particularly robust. If draft projections that Emeka Egbuka might last until 20, then absolutely I go Graham Hibb. I don't care that I have to figure out who I'm going to line up at the slot. I don't care. He's that good. And as good as everybody projected JSN to come out of Ohio State and hit the league, he's starting to make some progress. I think Egbuka's better able to jump into an offense like the Chiefs than even JSN was. So I do think that he is the one guy that's worth it. So with an asterisk on his name, Emeka Egbuka, Ohio State, yes, I would go do that.
Fair enough. I knew who you're going to be targeting, so I just was curious if you'd be willing to do that to get up to 20. Like, because I think that's probably, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe his floor is a little bit lower than that. We'll see. But mock drafts I've seen, I don't think I've seen him mostly in the 20s at all. So we'll see.
It's a tough one, but we have to fight back and forth with teams that we have to fight on the field. You got to do it in this draft as well. They hold some picks in some very precarious spots for the Chiefs. What's going on around the AFC West? That's next. Folks, make sure you check out KC Chiefs Corner and RGR Football and NFL 33 for my take on Aaron Rodgers. That should be out by the time you hear this. So, no, it will not be. Okay, well,
I'm not.
I may have changed it by then.
I'm just saying I don't want to hear about Aaron Rodgers. Like,
yeah. Hey,
I understand you got a thought process there, buddy, but that's not something I want to be hearing about.
It's my favorite thing. If you guys haven't been to NFL 33, it's a Substack. It's a little bit more written form. There's some pods, there's some vids, that kind of thing. But it allows me to go off on teams that I don't have to cover on a daily basis and not have to worry about, hey, could this come back and actually turn when we get stuck with this? No, we can just say what we really think about Aaron Rodgers. So you guys go check that out. Around the AFC West, Aaron Rodgers is not in it, at least that we know of. So that's a good thing right there. There's been a lot of change. And I think when I look at some of the things that I think have changed the most, I look at stalwarts and I look at what's going on in San Diego. Every talking head in football is going to call them the odds-on favorite for the AFC West again, and they'll be wrong yet again. But the departure of Joey Bosa is one of the things that just sticks out to me about what's really changing in the West and how everything that the Chiefs have been able to do in the last 7 seasons, obviously the last 5 in particular, at sustaining it and making small tweaks to stay on top. We're talking about full redesigns in the AFC West to try and get back. And I just don't feel like anybody's, as much as they're changing some of their outcomes, I don't think anybody's really ready to push the Chiefs for the title.
Yeah, no, and I can't say I disagree with you on that. Obviously, people are going to say the Chargers are going to be that team. And I just say good luck, because until the Chargers show that they can do anything more than just Charger, I don't see that happening. And the reality is that I think that Harbaugh is going to have a challenge on his hands. They have the offensive line. They have good pieces on their offensive line. So I think that's going to help. But can he continue to run the ball as much as he did and take the ball out of his best players' hands? That's a problem. That's not the NFL today. And I don't think, and I'm sorry I keep saying but I don't think that that's a scenario that's going to win them anything more than maybe they can get to 8 to 10 games. Maybe they can get to a point where they can get 11 games and challenge for a division. But I don't think that it's going to be something that's going to get them far in the playoffs. It may be something that could get them to making the playoffs, but is it going to be something that's going to knock off Kansas City? I can't imagine it's going to be, because you're essentially what he's doing is basically taking, if he was the Chiefs head coach, he'd basically be taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. How does that make sense? Like, you're going back in time to a type of football that isn't really played much anymore, and the running game can help, but I don't think it's going to be something that can take over the NFL anymore. Not this.
I don't think so. As much as I acknowledge that the pendulum is swinging back and balance is there to protect the quarterback some, I don't think you can do it like you do in college, because the run plays just aren't as dominant in the NFL because of the level of player that is now on the field. Even the worst guy on your 11 on the field is nowhere near what it's like in college. There's always creases in college. It's just not the same. So I hear where you're coming from there. And I honestly don't think that, as much as the players will buy into that, I don't think that projection to the future is really what we have to be watching as Chiefs coverage right now. I think the Broncos are much closer to being able to do something. Their defense has stood up. That quarterback is coming on. And for those of you who doubted Bo Nix, I told you so. And I'm happy to be able to say that. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to take a big step forward. I don't know that I see anybody having a dominant record outside of the Chiefs any more so than we saw last season. So it feels like there will be strides, but it feels like it's going to be a lot of the same in terms of like the end result.
Well, you don't have the Raiders coming in and
I actually don't. No. Not on my list.
Yeah, I
just got to look at the roster one more time just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I actually Googled it right before we started the segment, and just because I wanted to see what they were saying about Geno Smith, and it sounds like they're actually trying to work on a contract extension for him. So thank you, Las Vegas. If you do that, thank you, because I think that will be mediocre football in Las Vegas for the next 3 years, because I do not see him doing anything more than mediocre football in Las Vegas. Their defense is better. Max Crosby, obviously, he got his big deal, but you're not going to be able to. I don't think Geno is going to be the guy that can take you to the promised land. And their biggest problem is you have to beat Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is the division where you have to go against Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not going to say I believe in Bo Nix yet. I thought he played well last year. Mm-hmm. I do believe in Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. Geno Smith is by far behind those two, behind Mahomes and Herbert. I don't know where he is in relation to Bo Nix. I think the Nix has the ability to possibly be better. We'll see. But, time is going to tell on that one.
Right. Geno's a known quantity. And I think that's honestly why Carroll wanted him.
But he's a limited known quantity. That's the problem.
Right. I agree with that. And I think in this particular division, I think there's, as much as people want to say that the NFC West is a hard-nosed division, I think this one is just a different animal.
Well, you have to play almost a perfect game to beat Patrick Mahomes twice a year if Geno Smith is your QB. And that's for Patrick Mahomes. I would argue that you have to play almost, it's not quite as perfect a game, but close to almost as perfect a game to beat Justin Herbert twice a year. If you lose those 4 games, you have no chance in the division, period.
Yeah, it's over. And that's unfortunately
because I don't think
the way it'll go.
I don't think you're winning both against Denver. Sorry.
Right. No, that's a very good point. And there is a possibility if Nix and Peyton get their act together, he could surpass the production, at least. Maybe not the acumen, but the production. For a second-year player, that's got to be on. So I do think that there could finally be some movement. I just don't see it being the Raiders moving up at this point. We're going to have to see. But any other holes in any of the other AFC West rosters, or things that you think either big mistakes or big issues?
Well, the one thing that the Raiders have going for them, their tight end is going to be phenomenal. I think Bowers is going to be I hate saying this because it sounds almost sacrilegious, but he's going to be Kelsey-esque in some ways. He's a fantastic tight end. I think he could be the best tight end in the game. And I don't mean the game. I mean just the best tight end for the next 10 years. I think he has that type of talent. So they have that going for him. But what else do they have? What do the Raiders have on offense? I mean, that's you have a bunch of guys that they don't have right now, and you're putting all your money in Geno Smith. Okay, well, you don't have wide receivers that are going to help him raise his game. He had Tyler Lockett, he had JSN, he had DK Metcalf as the last stop.
Right.
You're going to put him on the field with nobody even close to any of those guys, in my opinion, on the Raiders right now. Now, I'm not saying they can't go find somebody. I'm not saying that they can't bring somebody in, but like they don't have that guy right now. And yeah, Brock Bowers, but that's not going to be enough. For Denver, it's a question of what?
The thing that stands out to me, and I see more people talking about this, I don't think the quarterbacks are going to last to 6. So they'd be smart if one of them did, and they did have a serious grade on them. I have both these quarterbacks as iffy first-round picks, like not top 20 on my board. But if they
basically the Geno Smith draft from when Geno Smith
very,
came out.
very, very similar. Not quite as bad as the Kenny Pickett draft, but yes. But they'd be smart if they did what they thought and they took the quarterback. If they make the mistake of throwing a running back onto this roster at number 6, they get what they deserve. I have to think that they have to be looking at wide receiver, because I do think that Carroll knows enough to not waste it on a running back at 6, as good as Esham Gentry is.
You could hope, but Carroll does his own thing, and he is running the show there. So
he doesn't have John Schneider anymore.
Yeah, no, we'll see. And you look at the Broncos. It's a question of who's going to be catching the ball. I mean, Cortland Sutton, yeah, they have that, but are they going to have somebody step up and be that second wide receiver? Because everybody's going to need a second wide receiver, and then you still have the same problem with the Chargers to an extent. McConkey is good, but who's going to be your other guy?
Everybody needs everything. It's going to continue, and we'll keep tabs on the rest of the AFC West for you. So thanks for being with us today. Make sure you check us out. Get liked, get subbed. Matt Derrick's going to be with me tomorrow. We're going to go over his inside information, anything that is starting to percolate as we get ready for this Chiefs draft. Thanks for being with us today. We'll catch you tomorrow.